So I'm Dr. Mike Jones. I'm the Managing Director of Impact Minerals Limited. We're listed on the ASX under the code IPT, and we are looking to bring Lake Hope high purity alumina project into production over the next couple of years. And the project's located about 500 kilometres east of Perth here in Western Australia. So high purity alumina is a little known but niche mineral that's actually quite crucial to a whole range of high-tech industries and also the energy transition that we're currently going through. The three main uses are actually, first of all, in LEDs, so light emitting diodes. Every light that's going in virtually globally now has a thin piece of sapphire behind it, and sapphire is another form of alumina, aluminium oxide. And so there's been government mandates to remove incandescent light globes, and so that market is growing, quite extensively. The second one, which is really burgeoning demand over the last probably 6 to 12 months, is actually in the semiconductor industry. So alumina in this raw form, as we're talking about, aluminium oxide, is actually one of the hardest substances known to mankind, and it's also thermally inert and chemically inert. And so it's used in slurries, in mechanical, called mechanical planarization, for polishing certain parts of silicon carbide semiconductors. And it's also used as thermal insulation around those semiconductors. And we're seeing obviously all this demand for AI, data centers, huge heat is produced from that. And so it's a very important part of that. And the last one is it's used in the battery architecture, lithium-ion batteries, other battery architectures, again, to stop the thermal runaway, and we've all seen pictures of the batteries exploding, and also to help promote the chemical transfer between the anode and the cathode. So all three of those things growing quite dramatically, and so the use of HPA is going up at about 20% per annum. Certainly, so the Lake Hope project, as described, is actually in a salt lake, so people have probably driven through or around all the dry salt lakes in Western Australia. A number of them have a particular mineral in them, which is readily drilled, readily dug, and it's in the top 2 meters of a salt lake called Lake Hope. And there's something in the order of about $15 billion worth of HPA in the ground there. And it's amazing because it doesn't need any on-site beneficiation. There's no crushing or grinding or anything like that. And so our plan is quite simple. We're going to dig it up 3 months of the year, stockpile it, and then truck it into Perth, where we recently announced that we've acquired the assets of one of our competitors in the HPA space. It went into administration, and they had a very elegant process, and they've got a pilot plant that was 90% finished here in O'Connor, just in Fremantle, and we've purchased a share of that. And our aim now is to try and lock those two together to produce HPA. So we've had the Lake Hope project just over 2 years. We've just completed a pre-feasibility study, and that shows some spectacular numbers associated with it. And we believe that looking to bolt it on to what's called the high pure process, this is the failed asset that we bought, will reduce improve those economics even further. Yep, and you've raised a couple of good points there. So the DFS work will revolve around what's the best process or combination of processes to get to the HPA in the most cost-effective manner. So the current results of our PFS was that the net present value, which is a very conservative discount rate of 10%, is just over 1 billion Australian dollars, so very valuable project. The capex to build it with the current process is about 250 million to get to a benchmark scale of production of about 10,000 tonnes per annum. And that'll give us earnings after tax of about $170 million a year once we're up in production. So the numbers are really extraordinary, but the big number is actually the operating cost. So because of the ease of the digging and the mining, and also the relatively straightforward process, we believe that we can produce high purity alumina at the lowest cost globally, as far as we know, of anyone else producing at the moment, by a considerable margin of up to 30% or more. And so we believe that's going to really, give us the entry into the offtake, which is a critical part of the next step. So that lower operating cost will be firmed up during the DFS, and also looking at how that fits in with the high pure process. But the end game in any industrial mineral, and HPA in particular, is getting those offtakes and also balancing that against the scale of the scale of your scale up, right? Going from 0 to 10,000 tonnes is a big step. And so we believe very strongly there's huge demand for HPA. There's a company called Alpha HPA Limited, code is A4N, currently have $1 billion market cap, and they are scaling to 10,000 tonnes. It's going to be the largest plant of its kind in the world, and they've been incredibly successful in this whole journey. But it's a case of this is what can happen if you can get it right in the HPA space. And we believe that we're actually the only other company capable of producing anything like commercial quantities of HPA with our acquisition listed on the ASX. So it's a fantastic step. So we'll be looking at the economics of the Hypura process, what the next best scale is. And without rambling on too much, the other beauty of the Hypura process is that it can grow in a modular fashion. So we believe that rather than going from our 250 million capex for a big scale up, is that we should be able to increase our ability to produce HPA in the order of tens of millions of capex at a time, which is far more manageable by both debt and equity than a massive jump to 250 million or more to build the plant. So all in all, it's a fantastic project, both from the mining, the process, and also now the potential to deliver significant quantities of HPA into this burgeoning marketplace. So I mentioned Alpha HPA, $1 billion market cap. Our market cap is currently 20 million. Our NPV, what our project is worth to us right now, is over $1 billion, and so we can see there's a massive potential uplift there as we add value over the next couple of years. The key things over the next 6 to 12 months are the Hypura acquisition and looking at how that bolts on to Lake Hope. So there is a pilot plant, as I mentioned, that's 90% complete when it went into administration, and that was due to financial mismanagement by the board, nothing to do with the technology as it found out. And so we have a pilot plant that's ready to turn on. We've took possession of the keys on the 1st of May. We're about to turn the pilot plant on and hopefully get to HPA in a relatively short period of time. Nothing ever goes smoothly with pilot plants, so a few more months to get it up and running, another 3 or 4 months to get it up to steady state. So by the end of the year, we should be in a position to be producing reasonable quantities of HPA. The plant capacity is at least 25 tonnes per annum. That's more than enough to satisfy any demand from initial indications of interest from potential offtake partners. And so 2026 will be the story of getting that pilot plant running, getting into offtake. But the big story then after that is that the plan is that, assuming that everything goes according to plan, is that the next step would be to look to build the next stage of plant actually in North America. HPA is a critical mineral. The supply is fairly limited. There is Chinese supply, but most of that's used internally. So we're not under threat from the Chinese dominating or cutting off supply. But high purity minerals that in general are difficult to make, and so North America is crying out for HPA, and so we'll be looking to build our next stage of plant there and maybe look for a listing on one of the North American stock exchanges, maybe the NASDAQ, with a high-tech theme, and so pretty exciting couple of years ahead of us. So high purity alumina is a niche but little known mineral, vital for going forward in a wide range of high-tech industries. There are very few people around the world that make HPA, and that's because there are high barriers to entry to make any high purity mineral. But if you can get over those barriers, you've created a very significant moat around your business, which very few people can attack. As a result, you become a big player in a small space, and that's exactly where you want to be in any industry. And we believe that we're going to be there in the next couple of years, and you should come along with us on the journey.